Welcome back to Leaders of Today. Today, I'm joined by Maya Srinivasan, owner of Great Northern Builders. She is a powerhouse of resilience, ambition, and heart. Maya has taken an unconventional path to leadership, one shaped by travel, discovery, and a willingness to redefine success. Born to a Canadian mother and an Indian father, she grew up with a deep appreciation for cultural diversity and the power of perspective. After years in the hospitality and outdoor recreation industries, she found herself in a field never expecting: construction. What started out as assisting her partner's small business turned into full ownership, where she has revolutionized home remodeling by bringing back accountability, clear communication, and integrity in an industry that often lacks these values. Beyond her role as a business leader, she's a dedicated mother, an advocate for mentorship, and a firm believer in personal growth. She's tackled imposter syndrome, anxiety, and the challenge of balancing intensity with self-compassion, all while leading teams and raising the bar in her industry. Today, we are going to dive into her journey, what she's learned, what she's building, and how she continues to inspire the next generation of leaders. Welcome to the podcast. You're listening to Today's Leaders, from teens to titans. Hi, I'm Lorraine Connell, a teen leadership coach. I transitioned from teaching chemistry to coaching teens in leadership, helping them realize they can do hard things. We've often believed that leadership is an innate trait, but it's actually a skill that you build and improve. On this show, you'll meet today's leaders who share their teenage experiences, revealing how they developed confidence, direction, and the tools to become the leaders they are now. You'll discover how you or the teens in your life have the potential to become confident leaders, even if it doesn't seem possible. Welcome, Maya. I'm so glad to have you here today.
Thank you, Lorraine. I'm so excited to be here.
Okay, so as I ask all my guests, I would love for you to go back to your teenage years, take a trip down memory lane, and tell us how your teenage life, your teenage experiences evolved into the leader that you are today.
Yeah, it's been really fun thinking about that question these last couple days, getting ready for this and sort of taking that trip down memory lane. So thank you for the opportunity. As you said, I was born to my mom is French Canadian Irish, and my father was from India, immigrated to Montreal, Canada. I grew up there, and I come from a very tight-knit, loving family. I had two brothers, and we had a culture in my family, very much centered around the dinner table, having our meals together. We traveled together quite a bit. And our family culture was really based on, I'd say, storytelling, humor, and sort of just spending time together. So I think that was a big part of sort of my identity growing up. I went to a public school, great little public elementary school, where I had this wonderful teacher who actually offered a public speaking club. So for a few years, I did the public speaking club. And, even though I was really young at that time, that's a skill set I picked up then, third to sixth grade, that to this day, I still say, thank you, Mrs. Butler, because honestly, being an introvert as I am, I don't think I would have gotten that skill set elsewhere or otherwise. So that was a really great experience for me. I got to high school. I went to my local public high school, and those first few years of high school were not great. It was a large school. I would say the administration of that school at that time was not strong. I had a lot of teachers who seemed to be disengaged and focused more on discipline and sort of negative type of teaching approaches. And I was a great student. I loved learning. I was so into everything at school, But I started to get really disconnected and more focused just on my friends and annoyed with the learning environment I was in. So I had the good fortune the last couple years of high school. There was an alternative public high school in Montreal called MIND, which stood for Moving in New Directions. It was only about 180 kids. It was only the last 3 years of high school. It occupied one hallway in a large education building. It only had 6 teachers, and I switched, and that school was wonderful for me. And it drew from the entire island of Montreal and even the Native American reservations surrounding it. And it was really kids from everywhere who, for one reason or another, weren't happy where they were. So there was kids who were getting bullied. There was kids like me who loved to learn and weren't learning. There was kids with specific difficulties, some from foster environments, and they needed extra support. So there was lots of reasons kids came there. But what was amazing was because we had all had those negative experiences, we were all so happy to be there. And the teachers had this totally different approach. We called them by their first name. There was really not much discipline. They didn't need to worry too much about that. They were just teaching. And there was instead of a student council, there was what was called a community council, which was actually 2 teachers, 3 parents, and 6 students. So the students had the majority vote in everything. And I was on that community council. So we got to do these great projects. Like we created a student lounge. We were given a budget. Because it was just one hallway, there was really nowhere for us to hang out. There was no cafeteria. You had to go out for your lunch or bring a lunch, and we'd just be kind of sitting in the hallway. That was our hanging out. So we got a budget. We were able to create this student lounge, which became this sort of hive, this hangout. And really, I can remember so many great experiences in that lounge with my friends and sort of hanging out and building that community. So that high school was a really positive experience for me. I loved those last years of high school. My grades went up. I was so engaged. I was my high school valedictorian. I was so excited, except the problem I had was I had absolutely no idea what I wanted to do with my life. And I had these ideals that made me feel, in a way, very limited. Oh, no, I can't do that because then I'll have to get money from people. And I don't want to ask people for money. Or I had all these notions, right? And I felt like I was very limited in my understanding. I had these categories like doctor, lawyer, engineer, teacher, nurse. Okay, I don't think I want to do any of those. So what do I do? Yeah. So that's where I was at. And college sort of hit me in the face like, oh God, what am I going to do? So in my 16-year-old or 17-year-old brain, I was like, okay, I love to travel. I love diversity, culture, learning about the world. And I know I love learning. So I'm going to study anthropology. I'm going to start my undergrad in anthropology at McGill, right in Montreal. And, maybe I'll become a professor. Like I love teaching. I love learning, whatever. So I started that. And very quickly, I was also studying like a minor in Eastern religion. Like with my dad's heritage, I always had an interest in that, Hinduism, Buddhism, etc. So I was doing this anthropology degree with a minor in East Asian studies. And I was studying Sanskrit, which is like the dead language of the root of the Indian languages. So I was at my desk a lot and I started to have actual physical problems. I had bad posture and my back. I started having actual physical difficulty doing this role I had created for myself, which is I'm becoming a professor. I'm getting my PhD. So I was in a crisis. In year 1 of college, I was already in a crisis. I learned about the exchange year abroad program at McGill. I decided to pursue that. I spent my second year of college in Australia, and that was like another just mind sort of expanding experience. Because I was an exchange student, my grades weren't going to count. It was all going to be pass fail.
Yep.
So for the first time in my life, I wasn't fixated on these numbers and getting these
Ooh.
high numbers. So it was so freeing for me. I was doing my classes. I moved in with roommates. So I had Australian roommates. So I started to get to know them, their friends, their families. So I became very just within the community very quickly. And then I had time off in between semesters. I had actually 3.5, 4 months free, which was incredible. I did willing workers on organic farms, which allowed me to work on organic farms. You can travel around the country that way. And, you work a few hours a day in exchange for food and board. So I realized during that time, and these are things that I already had in myself. I love being outdoors. I loved being physical. I loved accomplishing something real. I realized I didn't want to live in the sort of the theoretical world entirely. I wanted to act in the world outside. I did not want to be at the desk more than I had to be. And so that was great, but it just actually created an even bigger crisis because now I had this degree that I didn't feel was going to work for me. Long story short, I ended up finishing college in an outdoor recreation, parks, and tourism degree. I transferred universities. I was in Thunder Bay, Ontario, in an outdoor leadership program. We learned a lot about like how to run your own business, the tourism industry, the park system in Canada, but we did a lot of outdoor leadership. So dog sledding and winter camping, rock climbing, canoeing, whitewater kayaking. We were active with all of that. And that ended up being a fantastic experience. I'm so grateful for those years in Thunder Bay. And then college was done, and I was like, okay, now I got to work, right? Now, shoot, now what do I do? And it was so funny because I had friends who were very directed. They knew what they wanted, they got their degree, they pursued their path. To this day, I remain jealous of them. But I will also say that even though that wasn't me, it's all worked out. Like it was fine. And I think this sort of obsession we have with linear progression is so self-destructive.
Yes.
I wish someone told me that growing up. And that's something I try to tell my kids. I try to help them know, just aim for a direction. Just figure out the broad area you want to move towards, and then just fail forward, meet people, live by your core values, and don't worry about it. And there's no end, right?
Right. It's a journey.
It's just a travel path. And if it's not working for you, don't worry, you're not stuck. So I started working in Fairmont Hotels and Resorts, the hotel chain. They have these beautiful, iconic hotels in Canada that they own, the Banff, the Chateau Lake Louise, and the Banff Springs, and the Quebec City, the Frontenac. So they have these amazing properties. I was working in Quebec in Mont Tremblant ski resort area at their hotel. I moved into leadership fairly quickly at the hotel, and that was great. I did fine. I realized that industry was not going to be a long-term industry for me. The evenings, the weekends, the holidays, it just felt, yeah, I'm doing this for now, but I'm not going to spend my career here.
Yeah.
I had an opportunity there was actually a labor strike at the hotel, and it sort of slowed everything down, and they were giving leave of absences to managers and supervisors to just cut down the costs at that time. So I was offered a leave of absence, and it was coming up on summertime, and I had been working the night audit at the hotel, like to get into leadership. I took this role that no one wanted, which was the overnight leading. And I had been doing that, and I'd said, I'll do it for 1 year. And it was now 18 months, and I was still working all night and barely sleeping properly during the day. So this opportunity came up to take a leave of absence. So I did that. I went back to something I was passionate about. I grew up riding horses, and I had been teaching horseback riding at a summer camp in Maine. So I took the opportunity to take the summer off from the hotel, go back to the summer camp, teach horseback riding. I was in a leader position there running the riding department. But I think something I realize now is I wasn't confident in myself as a leader. I really
Mm.
struggled in those early years of leadership with self-doubt and sort of not necessarily feeling like I knew what is the right choice here. And I think having had more mentorship would have been great because I think I've
Yeah.
had to sort of learn all of those things. At first, it was the hard way. And then I sort of realized, like, Maya, for God's sakes, you need some mentors. You need to do some reading. You need to develop this skill for yourself. So that's what brought me to the United States. That's what brought me to Maine. I got married in Maine. I've raised my family. I've been here for 20 years. So my husband and I were running a construction company together. He had started it. He was a carpenter. And I was staying home with my first child. And I started helping just with simple things like bookkeeping and basic admin. And over the years, we became more and more partners in the business. And my role continued to grow. And I slowly realized that I had a knack for business. I didn't ever think I wanted to be in business. But I realized, I thought back to my childhood and my father's work. He was in international engineering, developing mining projects, and he traveled all over the world. And he would come back and he would tell me these stories, like these crazy stories, like doing business with Russian oligarchs and, doing business in Indian villages where they only used elephants for transportation and sort of building this relationship with these villages, etc. And just these like stories, and not only the travel stories, but his work stories. I realized I was very interested and I had been asking him about his work since I was little. Like, how was your day, Dad? And then he would actually tell me, and I actually listened. And I realized I had been learning about how to run a business and how to manage people from him my entire life.
Yeah.
And I had it all in me. I hadn't gone to school for business, but I started to realize I had it all in me. I had these instincts for it. And when I had a question, when I wasn't sure, I would call my dad. And so my role kept growing. And eventually I was sort of running the company and realized I was running the company fully, leading a team, selling projects, handling the legal side. I was doing all those things without having realized that's what had happened, that I was running this business. And my partner was happy with that because he wanted to build, right? He just wanted to
Right.
build stuff. He didn't want to run a business. Unfortunately, our marriage has ended. We're not married anymore. But one of the things that happened as we were getting divorced was he said to me, Maya, this business is yours. You've created it. You've built it to what it is, and you should keep it. This is not what it would have looked like if I had been running it. And you've put 20 years into this, and take it. And I'm truly grateful for that because it's become my passion, and one of my greatest loves in life is running my construction company.
Yeah. And that's how I have met you in this iteration of who you are. And I am continually amazed at the work that you do and the way that you do it. And we said in the introduction that you're running a company in an industry that doesn't operate on the values that you bring to your company, which is accountability, open communication, honest communication. And you've really shared those things with the group that I'm in, and it's really stuck out to me. As I was listening to your story, I was thinking about all the different positions that you had where you were officially a leader, a titled leader, and all the other opportunities in which you had to lead because there was nobody else to lead for you. And so, this journey that you've taken all of us on in little bits and pieces has highlighted this path that got you to where you are today so interestingly. And the thing that I wrote down was titles. And I am curious if you have an answer to this about, do you think your biggest learning opportunities happened when you had an official leadership title or when you were unofficially a leader.
Right. That's a really good point. I think I do best when I don't get in my head, right? And I think titles sometimes can put you in your head. And I think I don't focus on my title now at all. I hate to even use one because it limits us. It limits us down. And I think being an introvert and being less apt to sort of take leadership, it's actually been really important for me to almost trick myself into it and be doing the things and only realize in hindsight, like, oh God, yeah, Maya, don't tell yourself you can't lead. It's exactly what you're doing right now. Okay, Maya, no more excuses. Okay. That's how I've had to do it. And there have been times where I've sort of stepped into this role where I had this, let's say, promotion at work.
Right.
And this new title. And that has been challenging for me. Like, am I ready for this? Can I lead this team? Are they going to give me this? Am I an imposter? Right.
Yeah.
And I think I've been too hard on myself. I really hope most people don't do this to themselves. And I'm starting to really get better at my self compassion and my self support. But I think at that time, I had to feel very confident before I would say to myself, yes, Maya, you can do this.
And I also want to reflect to you the statement that you said about how titles can limit us. You know, it almost feels like, shouldn't a promotion mean that you can do more? It's expansive, but actually, on the contrary. And if we think about leadership in the position of one person at the top, it is extremely limiting, and it's limiting for your business because if you're the only one that can make decisions, then everything has to filter through you and things take longer because there are only so many times in the day and there's only so much that you can do. So I actually think it's more of a reflection of you that titles seem to limit you than the imposter syndrome that I don't belong in that position. And I would love to hear you sort of shift that mindset and think about it that way because as you talked about, you have children. And when you were 17, like most 17-year-olds, the path is not a straight line and it is so unclear, especially at 17. And so, what if you're saying to those that you're leading in the younger generation, find your path, fill the gaps, and do the things that nobody else is doing to step into those leadership roles?
Yeah, now that you're saying it, I'm realizing that's exactly how I've built my company is actually I don't like to be a leader in a tower at the top all by myself. I make decisions in community all the time. So our whole team culture is built around a weekly team meeting where we're conferring with each other about the issues that have come up. And there really isn't a decision made in the company that we don't make together because I know at the end of the day, they're going to be the ones implementing these things. And if they don't believe in it, if it's just been thrust upon them, they're not going to do it. So in a way, I'm often the last person to give my input, or I give the least input, or really I'm just saying, yeah, that sounds good. You know, I think we've come up with a good solution here. So I think it has been a really good thing for me to learn to lead from my own style and throw out the book, right? What you thought the book was about leadership. I have to be outgoing and charismatic and have the right words all the time. I've thrown all that out and am leading from the heart now. And I'm not afraid for people to see me be vulnerable, not know, not be sure, or to just say, look, this could be wrong. Here's what I'm thinking. Please tell me what you think. And I think my team has come to understand I mean it. And I think our results are way better because we're building those decisions together.
Yeah. And often I think part of the challenges that we're facing in your industry of construction is that it's the builders, it's the people who want to be doing the work who are also instructed to make these decisions and they're not equipped to do it, or they don't have the time to do it. And so it just starts to snowball into all of the problems that you're seeing in your industry.
Yes, absolutely.
So, how do you create this norm besides empowering and including and community building? How do you bring people in who are okay with the open conversation and the open communication? Because I don't think that's common. So, it can feel really uncomfortable for people.
Yeah, I think we're really slow to hire. We go through a lot of sort of testing and feeling out how a fit might work for our company before we bring someone in because the way we run is so different. And in a way, it's harder. There's a lot more expectation on our teammates to handle what is in their court fully, completely, and well in accordance with our core values and our mission at all times. So that's a lot to ask. So I think we definitely fall into the, hire slow, fire fast category, except by the time we hire someone, we typically don't have to fire them because we've done that. We do personality testing. I have a very specific interview process. In a way, it's very scripted, which allows me to then compare all my information about candidates, like in a very apples to apples. I've asked the same questions. I know the answer I want, right? I know what a 10 on 10 would look like for this question. What did this person give me? What did this person give me? So I've got this very developed process. And then once we bring someone in, I know I'm asking a lot of them. And I know they have to actually be excellent. They can't really even be average. They have to be excellent. So I know I have to compensate them. I know I have to give them a work environment that they adore so that they want to be a part of the company. So that's my work. And my approach suits me because
Yeah.
I don't have to be dictating. I don't have to be that charismatic, extroverted leader that I thought was the only kind of leader. I'm focused on, in a way, it's almost like a caring role where I've got these amazing people and I want to make sure they're able to operate at their maximum, right? They have to have the tools, the equipment, they have to have the systems, the process, the training to do their job successfully. That's my job, to make sure they've got all the tools, all the resources, and they know I'm there for them and I'm going to back them up. I'm going to support them. That's really my role.
Yeah, and you mentioned earlier that you are willing to be vulnerable with them, which I get on my soapbox is if you're willing to be vulnerable, your partners, your community is going to be willing to be the same way. So if you're willing to own your accountability, own your mistakes, own your ignorance in certain areas, then so are the people who work for you and work with you, and the community only becomes stronger. And I was thinking as you were describing your interview process, I'm curious to know how often do you look at what this person will bring to the team and not just what will this person bring as an experience?
Right. Yeah. I think the what will they bring to the team is the most important. We can train for a lot of the technical skills, but we cannot change your attitude, your work ethic, or your morals. So that's what we need. We need that right. We call it right person, right seat. So getting that right person in the right seat, right? Once you do that, you shouldn't have to manage a person very much. That's the theory. And I think it's proven statistically, economically. They've got all this data. I've read some great books.
Yes.
So when I feel fearful and I feel like what I call grabbing the vine, right? Like what I feel like, no, I need to micromanage. I try to just bring myself back to that's not how you've been successful. That's not how you are successful. And that's not even what the data supports. So let's reground to the hard work of building the systems and processes so this person can be successful.
Yeah. In your industry, do you ever feel that pushback that what you're doing is totally out of the norm? And do you sometimes feel that insecurity that, maybe I am not doing it right? How do you navigate those feelings of, I know this is right?
Right. Being who I am, I have to be very well informed. So I'm in a peer group through the National Association of Home Builders. I'm in what's called a 20 club. So it's 20 non-competing remodeling companies from
Mm.
across the country. And we get together 2 times a year and we stay in contact with each other all throughout the year. And many of these people have become friends at this point. I've been in this group for over a decade. And so I have access to sort of this mind hive of like businesses. Some of them are second generation, some of them are 10 times the volume that we're doing. So I eliminate a lot of trial and error. We all do because we're all learning from each other all the time. I know what our business is, successful, not successful. I have actual statistics I can compare to other companies across the country. So that gives me a ton of confidence. But in terms, even within that group, I'm one of the more focused on company culture, even though there are several who really are focused on that as well. So, yes, we're very unique in our industry, but I never doubt it because I see the result with clients and I see the appreciation they have for having had people in their homes. And we're doing large scale remodeling. A lot of the time, our projects are whole homes or they take 2 to sometimes 12 months, depending on what they are. So we've been interacting with a family for 2 to 12 months in their home with their children and their pets. They're so appreciative of the trustworthiness and the care that they've received that I never really doubt the approach.
Yeah. And you may be unique, but it doesn't sound like you're alone. It sounds like within this other group, you have people to support, that challenge that you have to the industry. And I think that's really helpful to not feel like you're going alone. Even though it's right, it's still sometimes very lonely to be out there if you don't have that group that says, keep going, you're doing the right thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And then we have a lot of relationships like trade partners, like our framing crew, our painting crew,
Yeah.
or our vendors, our plumbing supply house, things like that, where now you've got this ideal culture that you've spent a lot of time training your teammates, your employees on. How do I bring that out and make sure that the framing crew is going to exemplify or the plumbing fixture person? And that's sort of this other level that we have to try to be representatives and emissaries for this type of branding, this approach,
Yeah.
and search out those relationships where the person gets it and actually is just that way themselves. And where we can't find that, because sometimes you can't, right? You might not find a framing crew who are all running around with these values. So, how do we manage that, right? How do we sort of keep our culture intact and still get this house framed? So, those are the ways that we've developed a lot of little tricks and ways to keep that culture consistent across this broad experience in remodeling.
Well, and the ripple effect of your culture is impacting other subcontractors who maybe like also then value that open communication and holding themselves to a deadline and really evaluating, can I meet this deadline or can I not? And how do I navigate that? And so in essence, you're not only creating a culture for your own business, but you're sending that information out and educating others, which gets back to that importance of mentorship. And so I'd love for you to touch a little bit on the value. I know you mentioned, I wish I had known that how valuable a mentor was, but like, how do you now give back in that mentorship space?
Yeah. Well, a lot of it starts with my team and my children. Those are sort of my primary places every day. I'm trying to make sure I start my own day grounded in my core values and within myself, right? Rather than being focused on what's outside and pleasing this person or achieving that. I try to make sure I'm grounded back to me. And that way I bring the energy that is needed or that I feel is needed to my children or to my team. I've served in the industry, the Home Builders Association. I've been involved with them for a long time. I was president there for a couple years, and I certainly with my remodeling club, we support each other a lot with resources, etc. I'm trying to do more stuff like this where I do get to talk about what I've learned and what my values are because, again, being an introvert, I never felt like I had really anything interesting to share.
Yeah.
And I've started to value myself more and say, Maya, you do have something to share, and it's time to start sharing it. And I have someone great on my team who sort of gets me motivated on these things and helps me set goals for myself because I would never seek out these types of things. And she's the one who's, Maya, you need to be networking. I was like, oh, no, don't make me go out and talk to people. She's like, yes. And we're setting a metric and I'm making you do it and you're going to do it every week. And I was like, oh, no. And now the Women's Business League, where I know you from, is, one of my favorite things.
Yeah. Do you encourage other people on your team to mentor others?
Yeah. So, I mean, community involvement, I think, is the main thing for us. We do have sort of for the team, we're all making efforts to go outside of just our daily work and connect, some of us more than others, depending on our roles. But I would say the working with the schools a little bit, career days, the high school career fairs we do. And that's really joyful for me to get those kids who come up and that light is in their eyes, especially getting girls coming up to and saying, I'm interested in this. I've learned how to do some stuff with, at home with my dad or whatever. And I think I might want to do this, but is that even a thing? And being able to have those conversations is really joyful. And I think we're still failing our girls in the trades big time, even though I think now we're aware we need them. We don't have enough people. And they've been excluded, right, by lack of teaching, not by saying you can't, just by not showing them how to fix stuff. We've excluded them. So we're starting to know that the trade schools are marketing to them, but then they get there, and I think there's still some real limitations. My oldest is in the trade school right now through our local high school. And I think they've experienced some really challenging moments and situations that I think are problematic. So I think the mentorship in our industry for girls in particular, we do have a lot of work to do. And that's something that I want to spend more and more time within.
Yeah, I think, one of the things that I've learned through leadership is if you don't see yourself in a leadership role, then you don't believe that you can be a leader. So the more we get girls doing the work, the more they see other girls doing the work, the more it becomes the norm and not the exception.
Yes, exactly. And I think our high school is developing a program they've been working on. It's like a career placement type of situation where kids can get credit, spend less time in the school building and at more time at actual places of employment and have that count towards their credits. So we're interested in that. We've expressed interest in being a part of that. I would love to share that information because there's this whole world in the trades that I feel like we're discrediting a little bit. We're more favoring the professional sort of white collar type jobs and college where there's this whole sector of kids who might be much happier working in a trade and, you can earn a great living and not be tied to a desk. And maybe we're not selling those as much as we should be.
Yeah. Okay. So then that leads me to my last question, which is go back to Maya, who was a teenager, but she's now a teenager today, what's the advice you would give to the Maya of today?
I think I would say, don't worry about perfection and don't worry about making the right choice. Just like I said, fail forward. Just do stuff. Don't worry about the outcome. Live by your core values. Figure out what's important to you.
Yeah.
And behave in that manner. It doesn't really matter too much what you're doing. Behave in the manner that you can go to sleep at night and be happy with that. And don't worry about what other people are saying. If somebody criticizes you, you can reflect upon that. And if the conclusion you come to is, no, I did what was right by me, I was true to myself and my values, that's that person's problem. Don't onboard that. But, maybe they have some feedback that you can grow from, but that's okay too. None of us are perfect. I think also finding those mentors and understanding that not everyone has those mentors at home, helping kids learn their resources and learn that you might not have the parent you need, right? Or the teacher that you need, but keep your eyes open for those people in your world that can help you and that you look up to, and seek them out.
That's great advice. How can people connect with you, Maya? What's the best way to connect with you?
Well, Facebook, Instagram, our website is greatnorthernbuilders.info. I write blogs and I post little educational videos all the time. So yeah, I'm pretty easy to find and love to communicate with people and sort of happy to share any information.
I love that. And are you Great Northern Builders on Instagram?
Yes.
Okay.
And Maya Srinivasan.
Okay. Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much.
Absolutely, Lorraine. Thank you for having me. This has been great.
Are you ready to help the young people in your life unlock their inner strength and step confidently into leadership? The new workbook from Peers Not Fears, Your Voice Matters, Uncovering Your Unique Leadership. It's designed to help teens see the leader in themselves, step by step. It's not just a workbook. It's the first step towards a ripple effect that could change lives. Let's turn today's teens into tomorrow's titans. Thank you for tuning in to this episode of Leaders of Today, Teens to Titans. If you found this episode helpful, please subscribe, leave a review, and share it with other parents who might benefit from this conversation. Together, we can support our teens in building healthy, positive relationships and become leaders of tomorrow. Until next time, I'm Lorraine Connell, and this is Leaders of Today, Teens to Titans.